guys, how's it going? So we are standing in front of our greenhouse where we just set up a drip system to all the containers on either side, and it was actually kind of a satisfying project just to kind of I like to figure out drip systems and kind of figure out how to route them the best way, and we tested it all out. They're all working. So today we are going to be planting these up, and we are going to be running a little bit of an experiment. Today I'm only planting one plant in each one of these pots. This is Erin's idea, actually, and I think it's going to be really interesting because so many of the plants we use, they get enormous, and they really, I mean, they're stunners all on their own, but oftentimes, like, my habit is to really just like cram things together and make it look very pretty and full from day one, which sometimes it works all through the season, and sometimes I find myself needing to like weed some of the plants out or do some trimming. So I just really want to show what these plants can do, and then we can kind of gauge like how long it takes these plants to actually reach to a full glorious size to fill, you know, multiple different sizes of containers. So we've got, what do we got? 9 containers, all of which go very much together in style, but they're all different sizes. We have the 1/4 inch brown drip tubing with 6-inch emitter spacing in each one of the containers, and I made sure that the matching container on the other side has exactly the same amount of emitters in each pot, so that if we need to adjust anything, we'll know like, okay, this one's getting too much water, so we know we need to adjust the one on the other side. There won't be any like mysteries once the plants get big and we can't see the emitters anymore. And then the other thing I've got are these 2 urns. I've got this one, and there's the same on the other side. I've got tater tot arborvitaes in them, which I've had in there for a while. They were, or are, underplanted with ivy, which was so big, it was like a huge drape around the whole pot. So we've cut it back. It's starting to come back now. So I imagine that toward the end of the season, that will look a little bit more soft and full as well. So all the soil in these pots, well, let's take a look at this side. Ta-da, looks the same. All the soil in the pots that you see is remaining soil from our fall bulbs. So we put fresh soil in the fall, had bulbs come up. I feel like that didn't tax the soil enough to merit replenishing the entire pot. So I'm just going to be topping up with fresh potting soil. We're going to be using Flower Tone and then planting our stuff. And this is our selection. Actually, Benjamin helped me pick these out the other night. So what we're going to go with, we'll just kind of go through each one of these plants. This is the Saturn Helianthus. This is a new one for 2022. And what I actually thought, that this one is going to be about the same size as the Suncredible, but this one actually stays a little bit smaller. So I think like 2 to 3 feet tall and wide, rather than, I think Suncredible can get closer to the 4-foot side. But this one is different in that it has a red ring around the center. And in some of the pictures I've seen, like this is my first time growing it, but some of the pictures I've seen, that gets a very pronounced. So I'm looking forward to seeing what that does. And these are a type that do not need to be deadheaded. They'll just keep blooming all through the season, and they're not obviously a single stem sunflower. They branch out and get really bushy, and I actually think they look really pretty. After the petals have fallen, I use these in flower arrangements. That's the other thing. You can use these in cut flower arrangements, and they do really well. The next plant here is Play in the Blues, which I've talked about like 100 million times, I think. I love this annual. Not only for its bloom, but we had a little bit of a dust storm, so it's a little dirty. But I love the color of the leaves. They have like almost a velvety sheen to me, and the kind of sagey, soft green that they are is just very pleasing. We've got a little friend. Anyway, the other fun thing about this one, which this one grows like 2.5 to 3 feet tall and wide. We'll put these stats maybe on the screen because I can't remember all of them. It gets big. I mean, it gets a good size. But after the petals have kind of like dried up and fallen off, the calyx, which is this part right down in here that holds them on, it retains its color. So it still looks like even the spent blooms have a little bit of brilliance, and it doesn't look like the plant needs to be deadheaded. And it doesn't have to be deadheaded in order for it to keep blooming, but it has the appearance that it's still full of blooms, which I really appreciate because you don't feel like you need to rush out and deadhead. Stepping down in size, we've got the Truffula Pink Gomphrena right here. I've also grown this a whole bunch of times, and I had to learn about this plant. Like when I very first planted this, we planted it in front of our house. You might remember, those of you who've been watching for a few years, we mass planted this by our front railing, stairs and railing. And I put them so close together because they were even smaller than this when I planted them. And I didn't really believe the tag. I thought, oh, these are such spindly little plants. For impact, I need to plant a whole bunch. And that, I mean, it was glorious, but it was way overkill. You should have seen this area. It was just like this profusion and big poof of pink up there. I mean, these plants get like 2 to 2.5 feet tall and wide, full of blooms, and the blooms retain their pink when they're dried. In fact, I made a wreath out of all Truffula Pink Gomphrena blooms, and like for a Valentine's kind of deal. And it still has, I mean, it loses a tiny fraction of color, but it's still very vibrant and pretty. So it's a really great plant. No deadheading. Pollinators love it. They also love the plant the blues. Case in point. Look, got a honeybee on that one. It's just such a great plant. The next one is Lady Godiva Yellow Calendula. Love this plant. In fact, we made a calendula salve this past winter out of this right here. I dried the blooms and we used it in the salve as the main ingredient, and it was wonderful. But the cool thing about this one, because it's a double flower, which I'm partial to double flowers, it allows for very little seed set, which is good and bad depending on what and why you're using it. Some calendula that don't have the double flower, they tend to want to seed themselves around, which in some cases and in some areas of my garden I wouldn't mind at all, but sometimes I would mind. Sometimes I want areas that stay more tidy, and I want plants to stay to themselves, you know, a little bit more. So this is a really good variety to use in that case. And I actually plant these out in our cut flower garden because I like to use them for cutting. I plant them in our raised bed garden, usually in a big container. And I've had them winter over in our cold frame beautifully. They're zone 7, so a touch too like heat loving for our winters, but in our cold frame they did wonderfully. Next plant, Buried Treasure Pink Strawberry. But let me just pull this one out because we got some berries to show here. Benjamin is going to flip out when he sees these. In fact, I have to tell him not to, he picks and eats the white ones. Like, ew, I know, I don't know. I try to tell him, but he doesn't seem to mind. I think he just likes so much coming out, and I think it's the treasure hunt for him, which is kind of perfect, the buried treasure. Anyway, I'm going to put this in the very smallest container we have. Let me see the size, 12 to 16 inches tall, spacing about 12 inches. So I think this is going to be perfect in the small one because the plant will be close enough to all the edges for the strawberries to dangle out the sides. I think that'll be really nice. And then we've got a few like classic trailers here. We have the Superbena Sparkling Amethyst, one of my faves. In fact, we planted a whole bunch of this. We haven't even showed you yet. Up in Versailles around Persephone. Like, this is the only plant we put around those 4-cone boxwoods. I think it's going to be really pretty. I think they'll do really well. And then we've got Superbell's Grape Punch here. And I'm looking forward to this because Superbells really don't do well for me in mixed arrangements. So having one in a container and being able to kind of modify its water if needed will be really, really handy. Of course, all of these, you can see I'm picking off blooms. You don't have to do that in order for them to keep blooming, and oftentimes you don't even notice. It's just that I'm up so close to it that I do. The Vista Fuchsia, Supertunia. In fact, I'm using 2 of the Vistas, Fuchsia and Silverberry. I wanted to use the Fuchsia for a bright pop. We needed it. Without that, I don't think that this arrangement would kind of sparkle as much, if that makes sense. I think it needed that bright punchy color, and then I wanted something lighter. This is our lightest flower, but both the Vistas, any Vista will grow like fast and furious. So anyway, what we're gonna do first is get the pots all topped up with soil, which some of them I'm not gonna have to do very much, and then I've got a little landscape staple to kind of tack down our drip right where it needs to go. We'll put a little flower tone in. I'm going to plant each plant right dead center in the center of each pot. It'll be interesting. It'll look like, I don't know. It might look really cute today, or we might have to give it some time. So let's get this done and then I'll give you a little tour. Alright guys, so here's the layout. I think they're going to do really well here. This is a very sunny spot because this is the south side of the greenhouse. Of course, they're going to get a little bit of reflective heat and they have gravel underneath them. So I think with the heat and the amount of sun, they're just going to fill up their containers really fast. So what I want to do as I plant these, I'll just kind of go over some instructions, care instructions, and or what I have learned about these throughout the past few years. But this one right here, of course, I haven't grown this specific variety, but what I do know about sunflowers is they don't actually require very fertile soil. They don't really like it. So we're going to come in with some flower tone, sprinkle it around each plant today, and that's all this sunflower will need all season, which is wonderful. Got to have some of those types of plants around. Okay, next plant here, Play in the Blue Salvia. This one, you want to allow it room to breathe, let it get its full, because it'll get its full size very quickly. I learned that kind of the hard way, like with the Truffula Pink. Not that it's a bad thing, I don't think. I mean, most of the time I don't see things choke each other out unless you're dealing with a Vista Supertunia, but it's just unnecessary, I think, largely. So this one does prefer consistent fertilization, so this one we will make sure to do that with. Got that one there. Next one is our Supertunia Vista Silverberry. Now the only thing with the Supertunias is this one in the big pot I don't think will be a problem because it's a bigger pot, it's taller off the ground. This one, since it's so short, this Vista and any Vista Supertunia, they are meant for landscape / container growing in that when they have a landscape label, it just usually means they get massive. Like they're so ideal for landscape planting, and not everything is. Like Super Bells aren't great for landscapes, but these are. But this one will probably grow down to the ground, and if we want to see the pot, we'll have to do a little bit of trimming. And then the other thing with both the Supertunias, whoops, and the Super Bells is that you do have to, here anyway, it's maybe not like this everywhere, but we deal with budworms, which is a little brown moth that goes around, lays its eggs, and then the worms come out, little green caterpillars, and they eat the buds of the flowers. So you end up with a green plant with nothing else on it, no blooms. So it's really not worth planting these unless you plan on spraying them. We use Captain Jack's Dead Bug once a week. We actually just do it preventatively now so that we hopefully don't deal with the problem. And it actually wasn't really an issue in our area until about 5 years ago. 5 years ago, it's like they arrived in our area. And we all of a sudden had to start treating for that. So anyway, down here, the Buried Treasure Pink Strawberry. We'll do the flower tone today. And then I do have berry tone, which I may end up using for this one, but this one doesn't need like a weekly dose. I mean, we could probably go monthly on this one. So something I've learned about the Buried Treasure strawberries over the past few years, because I've planted them all over, and I think they're rated down to a zone 5, which we are a zone 6. They are better the second year. Like the flavor of the strawberries seems to be better, and the size of the berries. Like last year, my harvest was massive on all of my Buried Treasures. So it's just something that you kind of have to like plan for that, I guess, and maybe not expect a ton the first year. Although, I mean, look at this first year plant already putting on its berries. That's exciting. Next one is the Supertunia Vista Fuchsia. So again, you got to be mindful of the budworms on this one if you deal with that in your area. And I think this is going to be wonderful because I thought about putting the sunflower in here because it's the biggest of all the plants. This is the biggest pot, but I wanted to leave my trellis in here, and I think this would have masked it. So I think it'll be interesting to see this texture as well as the containers and just have this massive bright pink down below. Okay, calendula. Do not have to deadhead this plant. It does seem to do really well with consistent fertilization. It is a little bit of an aphid attractor. So we'll probably be spraying this one with the Captain Jack's Dead Bug right alongside the Super Bells and Supertunias. So long as you know that, it's a really easy plant to take care of. In fact, I've used it as an aphid host plant in our garden before. It keeps aphids away from all of my other vegetable plants, which is awesome without having to use any kind of sprays. So anyway, Superbena Sparkling Amethyst. I really started planting this one a couple of seasons ago, and it just was such an amazing performer. I've tried out lots of different Superbenas, both in the ground and in containers. I always try to do a little bit of both, and this one has performed equally well as well in both situations. And I love, it's like almost like a tricolor bloom. The dark purple, the lavender, and then that white center. Then you see that little chartreuse eye. Oh, so pretty. And our very last one is the Truffula Pink. This one, I guess just plant it and leave it alone. Pretty much. This one is such a low maintenance plant. And you know, we usually consistently fertilize ours, and I'm not sure that every Gomphrena, if it actually needs that much fertilizer. I think that these tend to be more of a low fertilizer user, but it performs really, really well. And this thing is just going to get so massive and so full of pink little pom-poms. It's going to be really pretty mix of texture, I think. Okay, let's get the other side planted. All right, it is all done. They've been planted, fertilized, watered in. Now the drip system can pick up and take over. It's not a hands-off though at this point. We're gonna still have to keep up on any kind of bug preventative on the Supertunia Superbells and the Calendula. We also keep our eyes on them every day, especially when it's really hot, in case something happens to the drip system. Occasionally a coupler will blow and then a pot's not getting water that you think is getting water. And then, you know, if you don't get to it in time, then it can be a little bit devastating, especially if you're trying to go for something really, like, this is very planned, I guess. Actually, Aaron was congratulating himself on how good of an idea this was while I was planting them up, because they do look pretty sweet even right now. And in terms of investment, when it comes to plants only, I'm not talking about containers here, because you can use whatever containers you want. This would be about a $100 investment. Depending on where you live, that might be up or down. And I think that's pretty awesome for what kind of display that this is going to be in the future. So anyway, we'll be giving you guys updates. Hope you enjoyed this video, and we will see you in the next one. Bye.